When I hear the phrase "on the edge," the irresistible image is the proverbial lemmings marching resolutely to the cliff. For the first time in history, humans are now poised to destroy the prospects for decent existence and much of life. The rate of species destruction today is at about the level of 65 million years ago, when a major catastrophe, presumably a huge asteroid, ended the age of the dinosaurs, opening the way for mammals to proliferate. The difference is that today we are the asteroid, and the way will likely be opened to beetles and bacteria when we have concluded our work. Geologists, as I'm sure you know, break up the history of the planet into eras of relative stability. The Pleistocene, lasting several million years, was followed by the Holocene about 10,000 years ago, coinciding with the human invention of agriculture. Today, many geologists add a new epoch, the Anthropocene, beginning with the Industrial Revolution, which has radically changed the natural world. In the light of the pace of change, one hates to think when the next epoch will begin and what it'll be. One effect of the Anthropocene is the extraordinary rate of species extinction. Another is, of course, the threat to ourselves. No literate person can fail to be aware that we are facing a prospect of severe environmental disaster with effects that are already detectable and that might become dire within a few generations if current tendencies are not reversed. And that is not all. For the past 70 years, we've been living under the threat of instant and virtually total destruction at our own hands. Those familiar with the shocking record, which continues to the present, will find it hard to contest the conclusions of General Lee Butler. He's the last commander of the Strategic Air Command, which has responsibility for nuclear weapons. He writes that we have so far survived the nuclear age by some combination of skill, luck, and divine intervention, and I suspect the latter in greatest proportion. It's a near miracle that we have escaped destruction so far, and the longer we tempt fate, as we are doing now, the less likely it is that we can hope for divine intervention to perpetuate the miracle. We might wish to consider a remarkable paradox of the current issue. There are some who are devoting serious efforts to avert impending disaster. In the lead are the most oppressed segments of the global population, those considered to be the most backward and primitive. The indigenous societies of the world, First Nations in Canada, Aboriginals in Australia, tribal people in India, and many others throughout the world. In countries with influential indigenous populations, like Bolivia and Ecuador, there is now legislative recognition of rights of nature. The government of Ecuador actually proposed to leave their supplies of oil in the ground where they should be if the rich countries would provide them with development aid amounting to a small fraction of what they would sacrifice by not exploiting their oil resources. The rich countries refused. While indigenous people are trying to avert the disaster, in sharp contrast, the race toward the cliff is led by the most advanced, educated, wealthy, privileged societies of the world, primarily North America, United States and Canada. In the United States, there's now much exuberance about 100 years of energy independence as we become the Saudi Arabia of the next century. One might take a speech of President Obama's 2 years ago to be an eloquent death knell for the species. I'll quote him, he proclaimed with pride to ample applause that now under my administration, America is producing more oil today than at any time in the last 8 years. That's important to know. Over the last 3 years, I've directed my administration to open up millions of acres for gas and oil exploration across 23 different states. We're opening up more than 75% of our potential oil resources offshore. We've quadrupled the number of operating rigs to a record high. We've added enough new oil and gas pipeline to encircle the earth and then some. The applause tells us something important about our social and moral malaise. The president was speaking in Cushing, Oklahoma, known as an oil town, as he announced in greeting his appreciative audience. In fact, it is the oil town, described as the most significant trading hub for crude oil in North America. And industry profits are sure to be secured as producing more oil and gas here at home, in the president's words, will continue to be a critical part of energy strategy as the president promised. A few days ago, the New York Times had an energy supplement, 8 pages of mostly euphoria about the bright future for the United States, poised to be the world's greatest producer of fossil fuels. And missing from the 8 pages is any reflection of what kind of world we are exuberantly creating. In the moral calculus of currently prevailing state capitalism, the profits and bonuses in the next quarter greatly outweigh concern for the welfare of one's grandchildren, and since these are institutional maladies, they will not be easy to overcome. Thank you.